Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Artist Review Part 2, Queen on Queen. Queen Part 2. Probably not going to be the last part. I don't know. I guess we'll see. So I left off with A Night at the Opera, which is a Stone Cold classic. Phenomenal album. Top 2025 album for sure. So they followed that up. That was in 75, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So they followed that up with A Day at the Races in 76, which is a classic case. A lot of bands where they put out just sort of their breakthrough or just their sort of statement album. And the next record, there's a lot of, sort of expectations or pressure or just hope that they're going to come up with something even close to as good. And, like Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here. Some people like it, some people like it more, some people think it's on par. This album continues in some of the styles, but they don't really have a lot of sort of studio experimentation with sort of vocal tracking the way they did with it's interesting. This case is interesting. With the way they did with obviously Bohemian Rhapsody and especially the Prophet song, but it has it has a number of good songs on it. Just looking at the track list, Tie Your Mother Down, that was a radio song. Let's see here, if I'm not mistaken. And interesting, like the font they're using on this, was was very, very similar. It was like a standard Queen font. And also, I should mention before I forget, of course, you have the Queen albums that all have share names with Marx Brothers movies. Night at the Opera, Day at the Races. I think there might be one other, maybe not. But I find that funny. I don't know if it was complete coincidence. It probably was intentional, but I don't want to do the research at the moment. But let's see here. Somebody Love, of course, which George Michael has become sort of popular to covering that song. This my fiance frequently enjoys playing the performance he did at Wembley when for the concert for Freddie. But yeah, that was kind of a hit as well. Let's see here. You Take My Breath Away, Long Away, The Millionaire Waltz. Millionaire Waltz, I remember enjoying. You and I, not And You and I. White Man. I think I haven't listened to this in a while. I believe I have the CD. I think I have the CD because I was collecting a lot of their CDs, but I never got all of them. So, but yeah, I would say it's a record that has some good music on it, but it is a sort of slightly, it's at least a slight step. It is a step down. I mean, I don't know if I would even put it among the first three records where it would be somewhere in that mix, but I wouldn't put it, the second best Queen album. Some people, like I said, really enjoy this whole period, and A Night at the Opera probably still is a little higher, but like my fiance says, she loves Somebody to Love. So that was 76. Then 77, I believe it was, News of the World came out. And of course, for some reason, these vinyls with News of the World, they're always it's written sideways. I think they don't have the sort of the same font and style that Night at the Opera and The Day at the Races had, but this is probably most well known. This, in some ways, might have become their most well known, most well-selling or highest selling because it has "We Will Rock You" and "We Are the Champions." It also has "Sheer Heart Attack," which, of course, was the title of the third album, so they did kind of a Led Zeppelin thing with that. But the rest of it again is sort of they're deeper tracks. They have some experimentation. Here's my copy with the red jacket. But and this is kind of my feeling about the later Queen. They're more, I think I'm more for singles than albums, I guess, after Night at the Opera. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I never bought this on CD, so my experience with this record is limited. I picked up the vinyl, I think I got, when a friend of mine was sharing with me a bunch of Queen when I was getting into them about 15 years ago. She probably did I did listen to this a few times, like on some burned CD. Fight from the Inside, All Dead, All Dead. All the songs aren't like We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions. Sleeping on the Sidewalk, a lot of Brian May stuff in here. Get Down, Make Love, My Melancholy Blues. I don't know, it's like, I wonder if the robot on here, News of the World, was inspired by, like sci-fi, or I was thinking, because I mean, this might be a concept album, but maybe it was just sort of what they thought of for one of the songs. It's inspired by cinema, you know, maybe futuristic sci-fi, like a gigantic robot kind of thing, you know, people being attacked. But yeah, I mean, again, it's we will rock and we are the champions. You don't think of robots necessarily, but so all right, that was 77. Then 78 is Jazz. The funny thing about Jazz is I'm like 95% certain I do have a copy. I bought a copy. But the thing is, with my fiance and I, sometimes we'll see records from a band like Queen we both want, and one of us buys it, or we buy a second copy, and it just ends up at one or the other's place. So it may be at her place. I'm not sure. But just to go over Jazz briefly, Bicycle Race is the one really popular. That and Fat Bottom Girls. Those are probably the two biggest tracks on this album. I guess between this, News of the World, and Day at the Races, I almost might lean to this, because I remember being a little surprised by this, although the title doesn't suggest the style of music, of course. But again, it's sort of, you're splitting hairs to a point. None of these records are like standout records that I've spent lots of time with, and I don't think I ever bought on compact disc. So like, buying the vinyl was the first time I ever heard it. I haven't heard it, but I ever owned it. So, so I'm just, yeah. I mean, Bicycle Race is a fun track. I mean, I always think of the video for that, and Pink Floyd's Bike should be played back to back when we were talking about bikes. But all right, so I did bring the yes, okay. Next was The Game in 1980. And this has, of course, Another One Bites the Dust. That's the biggest track. That was a huge hit. #1, I think, on Billboard, possibly. I'm pretty sure it was. Of course, that song was known to Michael Jackson, I guess, was inspired by that, but he also maybe was talking to Freddie Mercury at one point and inspired that song, because I know that was, there's a late 70s song that I'm not thinking of, by either Chic, I can't remember who it was, I think it was Chic, that was inspired by that drum, that bass line, don't, you know. But, you know, I remember when I'd never really listened to much Queen, I knew that song. Of course, Weird Al did Another One Rides the Bus, but I remember that when I was like in grade school, that song. But yeah, the rest of this record, Crazy Little Thing Called Love was a pretty big hit as well, a song they played live frequently. Rocket, Prime Jive, Sail Away Sweet Sister, Need Your Lovin' Tonight, you know, Coming Soon, Play the Game. You know, The Game, they weren't as artistic with this album cover. I think they were just getting down to just sort of rock and pop, and almost, maybe they were influenced, with Another One Bites the Dust, they were influenced by disco and, you know, R&B, I suppose. But, yeah, another kind of mid-level at best Queen record at 3 stars. I don't hate it, but I don't find it fantastic like their early records. So, okay, then 81, they were asked to do the soundtrack for the film version of Flash Gordon. I guess, as cheesy as it sounds, among all these records, this would be my favorite, because I just remember seeing the movie late one night back in, I don't know if it was on, it might have been on a local channel, or it might have been on Sci-Fi Channel, and being kind of impressed by the music. It's like, I think that's Queen, you know, Flash, you know, and then I went out and bought the CD within a few weeks. And I remember seeing the movie, I think maybe even as a kid. So, I mean, it is cheesy to a point, but I would call it good cheese, or at least acceptable guilty pleasure cheese. And I like the movie, you know, and I like the falsetto, the whole sort of in and out theatrical story base, sort of like, you know, they're talking about obviously the story of Flash Gordon. If you've never seen the movie, it's a sci-fi sort of fantasy sci-fi movie. I mean, maybe not half, but a third of this record is just dialogue from the clips from the movie, I know. But the theme song is the best part, but you know, it's funny to hear Queen coming in and out, and Freddie and all the, you know, Roger doing their vocal harmonies. Saved all one of us. You know, it's very majestic, which I think they later did, and I do have a copy of it. I'm not gonna be able to show it today, so I may have to wrap this up. Yeah, they did later with, you know, the Highlander theme. So yeah, I think I will try to make a third part for Queen, even though these records that come after this I'm even less familiar with, sadly. Because, I mean, Queen's a band that the early stuff is really where it's at to me. The later stuff is always been sort of enjoyable but not addictive. So specific songs, but like the last record I will show more in depth next time is at least by many considered an important record. So thanks for watching. Please comment, subscribe, and please tell me what your favorite post Night at the Opera Queen album is.